I did consider making a far more complex video about Frankenstein's impact on horror, literature, culture in general, from the original book to the almost cartoonish icon that the monster is today. But when I finished the book, I thought, nah, let's keep it pure. I'm sure I can talk about this masterpiece for 10 minutes. This novel deserves its own video. Frankenstein, or the modern Prometheus, Mary Shelley, 1818. That's over 200 years now. This is the folio edition from 2004, not the brand new one, the superior 2004 edition. This may be my favourite physical book in this entire library. It's beautiful, it's elegant, it's not overstated, it's got wonderful pencil drawings in there. I'll find a few of them and show them throughout the video. I have read this before. I must have been about 14 or 15 years old. I remember loving it. I remember the broad strokes of the story, but I either forgotten or just didn't appreciate the epistolary style. Epistolary. It means it's written as a series of correspondence, letters written to somebody else, or sometimes diary entries like Flowers for Algernon, Cloud Atlas, Dracula, of course, The Secret Diary of Adrian Mole. Even something like The Martian would count as epistolary because that's made up of video and audio vlogs, snippets. World War Z. In my last video, I had a pop at H.P. Lovecraft for attempting a similar thing, but not quite having the skills to pull it off. The Call of Cthulhu, I think it was, and it just got in the way of the story. Mary Shelley has an abundance of talent. This is how it's done. The way she uses it, it deepens the narrative while also obscuring the narrator's intentions. More on that in a minute. The plot. And did you notice I didn't give a spoiler warning at the beginning of this video? Because this is Frankenstein and everybody knows what this is, right? But then again, if you only know this story from the 1931 movie onwards, with the crazy scientist living in a gothic castle digging up bodies, it's alive! It's alive! And Boris Karloff running around groaning like a moron with his arms out in front of him. It's not that. I absolutely love that film and some of the sequels. I think it's the perfect example to stick right up the gatekeeper's collective arsehole who say that adaptations should stay as loyal as possible to the source material, because that's just not valid. It's all great stuff, but please read the original book if your image of Frankenstein is Herman Munster. Anyway, the plot, the story can be traversed as it's read on the page. What I mean is, no hidden meaning, no metaphor, no narrative tricks. And that's part of the genius of Mary Shelley. You always have the skeleton of the basic story to fall back on. Victor Frankenstein is a German chemist, I think he's German, who develops a procedure to animate non-living matter. He tries to make a man in the image of the gods, the modern Prometheus. Look it up. But his creation is ugly and monstrous and scary, and then the monster runs away. Victor falls ill and is very depressed. Then he learns that his kid brother has been murdered, so he travels back to the family home in Geneva, Switzerland. I'm not sure where the borders were back then, doesn't really matter. And then he bumps into the monster near his home, who then pleads with Victor to hear his tale of what he's been up to. Lucky for me, my memory of that first reading over 30 years ago wasn't quite strong enough to inform my opinion this time around. There's a lot of gaps with the details. So now I'm looking at Victor and I'm thinking, hang on a minute, you were the only person to witness these miraculous events. Did they really happen? And also, you're writing them down in a journal or in letters to somebody else, and you can write whatever you want, or you can edit the real events however you want. So now, I'm sorry, Victor, but I'm calling various degrees of bullshit on this. The novel just... There is a fly whizzing around here. Just ignore it if you see it, okay? The novel just gets better and better. The big chunk in the middle, which is the creature's narrative, is chef's kiss. It's perfect. He is intelligent and eloquent, but he's also got a warped brain. You can tell that he's made up of maybe the memories and the intelligence of the bodies and whatever he was made of when Victor put him together in the lab, but he's also evolving very quickly and learning. He's not starting from a base level like in the film, and he's adding layers of emotion on top of this weird personality. At this point in the book, I still expected this to be a fairly straightforward subversion of the creator monster trope, bearing in mind that this is 200 years old, and that kind of thing has been copied thousands of times since Shelley. You know, the old, well, the creator is actually the monster, and the monster is actually harmless and innocent. However, what would you call it when you subvert the already subverted? The old switcheroo? The double bluff? Yes, Victor Frankenstein is a complete piece of shit, but that monster, for very complicated reasons, lashes out and murders children and wants revenge on humanity, society, whatever. Revenge for what? That's the question. Because he's born into a world where everybody rejects him, because Victor refuses to build him a female monster companion, because he's just mental, a product of humans playing God and having it backfire. At the heart of this book is the big question of nature versus nurture, the responsibility of parenthood and creation itself, all set against the backdrop of this infinite loop of mirrored hate and revenge. I think great works of literature often leave us with something to ponder. We can explore our opinions on the big questions in life. Frankenstein gets to that point about halfway through the book, so I'm already in contemplation mode as the novel is still unfolding. Hello, Moid of the Future here. Thank you for tuning into one of our archive videos, which was recorded many moons ago. Media Death Cult has evolved a lot over the years, so be sure to check out the more recent projects on the channel. You can support what we do here by grabbing yourself a t-shirt or a mug at the merch store, using Buy Me a Coffee, which is an online tipping service, or you can actually join the cult on Patreon and gain access to our exclusive Discord server, the best read-alongs in the galaxy, and the podcast, Radio Death Cult. Links to all that good stuff in the description of this video. Thank you so much. Peace! To wrap up the plot, I think it gets darker and darker. The monster gives Victor a warning. I will be with you on your wedding night, implying that if he gets married without making the monster a bride, that he will kill his wife. You cannot have what I cannot have. It's super revenge. And Victor, the arsehole, he still plans to marry his cousin, by the way. But it's okay. He doesn't see her as a cousin. He sees her more like a sister. Again, we have that dark dichotomy of responsibility and stubborn revenge. A few murders later, the story turns into this glorious spiral of self-destruction. Victor follows the monster all the way to the North Pole. But it's the saddest of endings. Victor dies of hypothermia, exhausted and fucked, and his dying breath is one of regret. Seek happiness in tranquility and avoid ambition, even if it be only the apparently innocent one of distinguishing yourself in science and discoveries. Then the monster shows up to mourn Victor and states that he's more miserable than ever and nothing will ever bring him peace, so he may as well kill himself. So he just sits on a piece of ice and drifts away. I'm speechless at the level of complex emotions on show in this book. Well, speechless apart from all those words I just said. It's one of those books that I'm absolutely petrified reviewing it, because how can I possibly do it justice? How can I explain what it means to me and how good it really is? So all I can do is just point people in the right direction and say, read it. And if you've already read it again. Every single character, every motivation, every page of this book is just so rich in meaning. Wonderful but realistic prose and beyond perfect atmosphere. Aside from the brilliant plot and subtext, Shelley also squeezes in an appreciation of the landscape. We get the grand tour of Western Europe with all its flavour and wonder. It's a Gothic masterpiece, not just because it's about bringing a dead body back to life. It's in the execution. A dark cloud hangs over humanity. Here's where I am with that. I've got a working theory of what Frankenstein is really about. Only part of it, my own personal thing. The reason that Frankenstein's monster is flawed and horrific is the original Prometheus story from Greek mythology was about humans being created in the image of God. So we are a step down from perfection, if you like. But Frankenstein's monster was created by a human. So it's created in the image of humans, not the gods. So it's fucked up. It's kind of linked to the Adam and Eve story as well. The removed from the gods, the step down from them to humanity, whereas the monster is created in the image of humans, and we have fell so far from what God created, or the gods created, whichever god you pick, that it's an indictment of who we actually are. We are fucked. So if we try and do the same thing as the gods, we are so much lower than them that that's what we spew out at the end. Yeah. Have I rambled on for long enough? It feels like one of those reviews that I could just talk for an hour and never really get my point across, because I'm not good enough at talking about complex books like that, but I gave it a go. I'm still thinking about making a far more complex video about Frankenstein in general and all the different facets of what it is. But I think before I make that, I'm just going to reread the book again and think about it some more. A score for Frankenstein or the modern Prometheus. I think this may be the easiest entry into the pantheon of books, the place reserved for books that are beyond a mark out of 10. Not just classic, but pantheon classic awesomeness. It goes straight in there. It's going to fuck up my top 100. Well, it's not. It's just going to go in extremely high. It's perfect. Did you love Frankenstein? Did you hate Frankenstein? I mean, did you hate Frankenstein? I guess it can happen. I want to know if you loved it or if you hated it. Or maybe if you're a bit meh in the middle, which is probably worse than loving it or hating it, you big long-haired freak.